RLCS Overtime, your one-stop shop for RLCS and all things Rocket League eSports. I'm your host, Wavepunk. I got a findable carpet and a Quinn Lobdell, two of the weirdest names in Rocket League, here on the desk with me.
But two of the best.
Two of the best.
Thank you.
Two of the best?
I'm like somebody else
best
over here.
and weird the same?
Name a better one off the top of your head right
Wavepunk.
now. A better
Easy.
one. A better one.
I think it's better.
All right. Well,
I mean,
we're
at least
just gonna
I
get
spent
child
time
this year.
I spent time thinking about my name.
Oh, really?
I
Yeah.
got mine and looked at it and thought it was cool.
Yep. Yeah, Xbox was like, you were like, this is what I thought of. And Xbox is like, I thought of something better.
And I was like,
I guess so.
And I was like, you're right, Xbox. That's great.
Where did Wavepunk come from? You asked me about mine. Where's Wavepunk?
I spent a good 2 months thinking about Wavepunk.
And that's all you came up with?
2 months down the drain.
No, it was like, because okay, like, steampunk, the whole culture thing of steampunk. It's like, it's a alternate form of energy, and how would the world change? Okay, so I was like, well, what's the core form of energy for me? And it's music. So waves, sound waves, Wavepunk. What would the world be like if all the energy changed?
Sounds awfully pretentious.
Super.
Yeah,
sure.
it sounds
Really,
way
really
cooler when you
pretentious.
explain it than just the word Wavepunk. Not gonna lie.
It has nothing to do with surfing, which is what everybody thinks it's about. But speaking of surfing, speaking of summer, the Brisk Summer Series happened a few weeks back, and here from North America, we had some fantastic plays. Take a look at the top 5 plays that happened in that tournament. Starting it off with Squishy. Ceiling shots has been the whole new thing with the meta here. Squishy's a big part of driving that forward.
Right, Jazer was one of the first to really kind of introduce us to the concept of ceiling shots. But Squishy, wow, you can see he's had a lot of practice hitting such a great shot. Squishy really just not afraid to go for ceiling shots in any situation. That's one of the scariest things about playing against this guy.
One of the more exciting reasons one of the more exciting reasons of seeing him in the next RLCS for me.
Yeah, then we had Torment coming up next with the play. These guys, the things that they are doing in the air here is reworking the way we have to think on defense right now. I think with the air dribble, the first time we saw an air dribble, we remembered, okay, when we see someone go for that, we need to hang back. Now there's more tools at these players' disposal. Look at this. This is not a ceiling shot. It's like a wall ceiling type shot thing.
Same concept, but different execution, right? Coming underneath it.
Third here, J-Naps. This was maybe the most replayed play of the weekend. The wave dash pass, holy cow.
So to kind of explain what the wave dash is, you'll notice just before his car hits the ground, he'll use a front flip, which is what propels his car forward so quickly, giving it to Rizzo. And honestly, huge props to Rizzo for being there. Why would he expect...
Forget Rizzo, J-Naps, that was play of the tournament. I don't know why it's number 3.
I mean, these two were pretty good.
Look at this.
Okay, that was pretty good.
Can you really say this wasn't better than that? I mean, these two were pretty equal.
I don't know if it was better.
It really just looks like Rizzo's like, I mean, I guess I'll go for this.
Yeah, maybe. What else can I do?
He just realized he was falling towards the ball. He's like, I might as well take the shot. Why not?
I don't even know how you calculate angles like that.
Okay, it's a North American top 5. Jacob has to be at number 1. Maybe the most absurd redirect I've ever seen. I
think just watch the defender. I think that's what makes these so much fun for me. Not only was he able to pull off this wild angle from the backboard, watch the defender. Just nope. Like, what do you do? He was totally there, but there's no way you can read that shot from Jacob. He's just a monster.
I feel like this entire top 5 was defenders going like, well, I guess I'm gonna have to think about that next time. I have to make sure I don't leave that open, because I didn't realize that was a shot, but apparently it was. That was all like 5, 4, and 1 were all just these absurd shots.
Rizzo's angle on that one, where he bounced off the wall and then landed on the ball. How on earth do you hit angles so tight like that? I didn't even know. The ball really had no room. He couldn't miss it.
It really just seemed like he hit it towards the back wall. He's like, well, I mean, I guess I'm kind of falling towards it. You see him use boost one more time, just kind of flip around, do some weird nonsense, and then it just jets right.
Kind of.
He's like, I don't know. Although his controls are weird. If you guys don't know Rizzo's controls,
that's true.
His throttle is on his stick.
It's like a remote control car.
Yeah, he has the throttle on the stick. So this is forward, this is backwards. I have no idea how he plays, let alone good. He plays really well. He's one of the best players.
The things that we saw him pull off in this tournament were things that months ago we would have been like, man, you got really lucky with that one. But 2 times in NRG's half in the finals, he pinches a ball with Fireburner straight into NRG's goal. How do you possibly plan that?
That has to be such.
And to do it consistently.
It has to be feels bad, man, for Fireburner.
Yeah,
that guy,
for real.
Known as the god of 50-50s, and then just every time he gets to a 50-50 with Rizzo, it's a goal. And not just to mention all the goals scored against them, but they couldn't score themselves in any game. I think NRG must have had 2 goals at most, or 3 goals in the entire series.
I think my favorite part was that I saw a post on Reddit of Fireburner lost to 50-50. That's what he got thrown up at Rizzo. Like, he's known that well for his 50-50s that when he does lose them, people make posts about it.
Yeah, exactly. And then seeing G2 come back and get the win, it was an exciting tournament, was fantastic as far as you saw the top 5 plays. There's such great stuff. And next we have coming up this coming weekend, we're going to have the same thing happen, but over in Europe. So we'll have 8 European teams. It'll be same channel, same time. You can just watch it here on the weekend for the Brisk Summer Series from Europe. But the 8 teams we're going to be seeing here, so we take a look at the bracket. We're going to have Envious, Flipside, Leftovers, Infused, Gale Force, Method, Mocket, and then We Dem Girlz, which is probably the team you are least familiar with here. That is made up of Shalset, Krazik, and Jazer. So some high-flying players there on We Dem Girlz.
Seeing Jazer in a competitive setting, I think, makes us all a little excited. His mechanical prowess is pretty much unmatched. I don't think anyone can do what he can pull off. But again, looking fancy and looking fly doesn't win you games. There's a lot more to it. But if he can somehow mix those two throughout the next season, especially if using these, I'm loving these in-between season tournaments because it's giving like rosters time to like, oh, let's try this because everyone's going to be super try hard, thousands of dollars on the line. No one's going to be throwing it away. So I think it's really big for teams. But seeing a player like Jazer, who's known for his mechanical skill, trying to like go competitive still and trying to just kind of master the good combination of positioning and skill.
Well, I know that at the Gold Rush LAN event, Jazer was really set on actually coming back into competitive play. He kept telling us about how badly he really wants to be like a part of the RLCS again, right? And how much he misses it. And you know, when you work so hard grinding on that mechanical skill, I mean, you want to put it to the use, right? You want to like style on people and go crazy. And so, you know, honestly, I don't blame the guy.
Yeah.
Well, and we'll take a look at some of the teams here. And the team that We Dem Girlz is facing off against is Envious. And this is the first time we've seen these guys play under their new org. This is the current reigning world champions of formerly Northern Gaming, now Envious. They stay with Maestro, their main, who did not play at LAN, but was their big, like, kind of main stage anchor of a player through all of the regular season. So these guys, We Dem Girlz has to face off against them in round 1. This is a single elimination bracket. You lose once, you're out. So is this, I want to hear from you guys. Does Envious move forward here, or does Jazer and the company actually make a name for themselves here in the Brisk Summer Series?
I mean, just because Maestro didn't play at LAN doesn't mean Maestro is not like a LAN boy or still nuts, right? We saw him just dominate online all the way up until LAN, and because of his studies. It's not like he was playing badly or the former Northern Gaming or Envious roster, you know, it was just like, oh, we're just going to take Turbo, like forget Maestro, right? He's just not cutting it. Maestro was really, you know, had prior obligations, and Turbo came in and did them a favor. It's going to be interesting to see how they perform without Turbo. Nobody expected them, I think, to be so successful with the substitute. And I think actually the pressure's on Maestro this time because we all saw them really just.
I think this is huge. Yeah, I think this is huge for them. How they perform in this tournament, the results, and just how they work together, I think it's going to be huge and potentially the future of their roster. You know, I mean, we don't know the ins and outs of what they're going to be doing permanently for the rest, maybe moving into Season 4. Maestro, we haven't seen him perform with this team now for several months throughout, you know, the end of Season 3 and then coming through all of LAN and now this big rest period. We haven't seen them been able to play together as a full roster. So if they just kind of fall apart now, that might give them reason to be like, what do we do? You know, we perform well with Turbo. What's wrong now?
Remember, we talked about this going into LAN, that Northern Gaming was the team that we talked about. They were the question mark. They were a dynasty, but they were like in flux. They didn't have Maestro. They had Turbo. We didn't know what was going to happen. And then they win everything. And now they've dropped Turbo, or Turbo has left to go be a starter on another team because they're keeping Maestro as their starter. I feel like that question mark is still there about these guys. This will be the first time we've seen them play under their new name. And We Dem Girlz, as much as I like them, I like that roster, and we all love Jazer, I have a feeling, my guess, I feel like Envious is going to take the win, and we'll only see them in one series, but still could go either way.
I mean, statistically, it'd be kind of unfair to not give it to Envious. I mean, they're literally the world champions right now. Even if they have one different person, you still have Remco and Devo, who spent an entire LAN just dominating everything, coming all the way through to the lowers, getting a reset, doing the unthinkable. I mean, that alone, I think, gives them, even if you just put those two, put anyone as their third, those two guys are just going to be so hard to defeat. I think it's kind of unfair not to give it to Envious, but I'd still love to see what We Dem Girlz can bring.
I don't want to be unfair to Maestro. I still think that these guys are definitely favorites to win this tournament. I mean, how could they not be? Like you said, Remco, Maestro, and Devo, it's just like such a star-filled roster. I think that we're going to see Shalset and Jazer really impress some people. People are going to forget that this is actually a strong team playing against Envious. but I don't think we can expect them to come through on top.
They win the name game. Okay, we have a long history in Rocket League of We Dem Boys puns with We Dem Girlz, then We Dem Babies, and now we got We Dem Moys as well. So I'm excited to see if they can continue on here. Moving on to another roster, the Leftovers, a team that became a beloved fan favorite here in RLCS Season 3. They change it up. They do not play with Farah anymore. Now they're playing with Pondex in this tournament. So Penta Sports splits up. Their players go all over the place. Freaky now playing a mock it with Pashy, and we have Pondex over here playing with the Leftovers.
I pictured like they were in a container and like you just saw watch the players all like fall on the table. People started grabbing them, trying to pick them up. And honestly, Quinn, can they call themselves the Leftovers anymore at this point?
I don't really think
fair?
so. No, I think they need to rebrand because these guys are not leftover anymore.
They don't need to rebrand.
This is the prime rib.
They need an org. They need an organization of calling all the European organizations out, pick up these people. They're fantastic.
Or American. Envious is American.
Sure, why not? Why not? At this point, I just want them to have a slightly better logo. To be completely honest.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
I mean, you know,
leave something to be desired.
It does its job.
They're named after food that sits in the fridge. Come on, and they're one of the best teams in Europe. But thoughts about this? So
Leftovers are the best.
Farah, we liked Farah a lot. He became someone that we didn't know anything about. He was one of the favorite players by the end of Season 3. No longer on the roster. Pondex, how do you guys feel that Pondex fits in with Sicky and Snasky?
Honestly, I like it. It's hard to say, right? Because we only really got to see Farah for one season. We've seen Pondex for a long time. He's been around. He's shown us his skill. We've seen him in highlight reels. We've seen him do what he does best. Farah, you know, he had a season to prove himself, and I think he did so. But consistency is key in Rocket League. If you can't do it for season after season, I mean, prime example. Sorry, guys, but G2. You know, we saw them just take it in Season 1, and they've yet to even come back to land for 2 seasons.
Right.
So I think Pondex is a safer bet because he's been around a little bit longer. We've seen him in more consistent set. Farah, a little newer to the scene, but I want to know where he is. I want to keep following him for sure.
The reason I think they made this swap, right, this roster swap, is I'm guessing that Pondex just has some minor playstyle differences that make him more comfortable for Snasky and Sicky, right? I mean, when you just have success as a roster, it's really hard to make changes, right?
Sure.
We look at Envious, they were so successful all the way online even, right? Why would they make that change just because Turbo was successful with them at LAN? It wasn't ever something planned. It doesn't necessarily mean that this is the better long-term roster. And I think that even though they may have been successful with Farah, we don't know yet how Sicky and Snasky felt playing with him. I think this was like a personal personal change. I don't think that they had anything, you know, I don't think they think Farah's a bad player by any means. I think he's a great player. He proved that on stage. I think we're going to just expect to see really a new, stronger Leftovers.
I'm hoping it will be a good change for them. Pondex considered kind of the captain of clutch from Europe. He's the player that does the most clutch plays in the best situations there. So we're gonna point out one more roster to talk about Gale Force, one of the favorites that has been a hot topic over in Europe. They came in second in DreamHack, made up of Violent Panda, K-Dop, and Turbo. That's again world champion players, grand finalist players here. Very formidable roster. Following to Flipside, who's also in this tournament. So both these teams kind of favorites to win right now.
I think we talked about it a bit earlier. This is kind of the roster of all of the people that are always just underneath someone's shadow all the time. You know, like Turbo was still on a team with Devo and Remco.
He was a sub.
Yeah, he wasn't even on. He wasn't even a starter. And then Violent Panda was like underneath Pashy. I know Passionati has a little bit more to him. He's been around a little bit longer. I think he's got a bit more of a fan base. Not to say that either are better than the other, but I think this is the team of just like, you know what? We want to be the stars. We're going to do it. And I've low-key always been a fanboy of Violent Panda, like, for the longest time.
This reminds me of iBuyPower Cosmic Season 1, which was the team of all-stars, of Gambit, Kernovi, and Lachinio. It was like, let's take all these fantastic players from these other teams, put them all on one team, and see how it goes. Do you think we're going to see a similar situation, though, where everybody wants to be the star, everybody wants to be getting up and in the ball, or will they be playing successfully as a team here?
I don't think we're going to see that as much. I think these guys are all great players. I think that something that really hasn't been said very much about substitutes within Rocket League is that there's just the game as a whole doesn't lend itself well to having substitutes. It's very difficult to maintain consistency with a new fourth member. They really don't get to practice very much, if at all. It's not like, you know, basketball where you're still practicing, you know, every day before your games, and then on matches you're staying on the bench, right? Usually substitutes really don't get very much practice at all with their team. That's why when we saw Overzero Season 1, who just got thrown to that roster, everyone was so surprised at their success. Again, the same thing with Turbo Pulsa. I think that we're going to see, you know, a bunch of players who have kind of been in the shadows or making it to the finals, just not quite cutting it. I think we're going to see them come out with something to prove.
I mean, every single player here has.
Are all in the grand finals.
They've all been in the grand finals. Every single one of them has been in the grand finals.
Turbo's won.
Turbo has
Turbo's
now
the grand
won,
finals.
right? So when you really just think about what these people have under their belts, the experience they have, I think is something to really speak on for the roster. And Violent Panda and Turbo, as we know, have already done well not being the star. They already don't try and take it. And same with K-Dop. K-Dop's one of those, like, and I guess it's more just like in-game when I cast it. It's easy to just like kind of forget that K-Dop's about to win. Like, oh, I forgot K-Dop's here. He's about to just destroy everybody. Like, I don't know. There's something about it. Just the way he plays is very simple, very calculated. And since it's not flashy and it's not always highlighted plays, you're like, oh, look, K-Dop's just scored his 8th goal this series. And it's one of those things that's easy to forget.
He's a little flashy. He's very fast and fun to watch.
What
What are you saying? He's definitely flashy.
Oh,
K-Dop has done some cool stuff.
What are we comparing it to?
Maybe he's not Jacob, but
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So, but here's the thing, though. We've seen K-Dop starting to develop.
Jacob is so flashy. We've coined the term Jacob stuff.
Hashtag just Jacob things.
Yes,
Yes,
right.
Remember,
Sorry.
Remember Jacob season 1? Jacob Kings of Urban season 1. And people are like, they're so good, and I'd be like, but I don't remember any of the plays they made. You know, to me, they weren't very flashy season 1, and they have just consistently ramped up in how deadly they could be. I think K-Dop, we could see a similar story here, because by the end of season 3 and at DreamHack, we saw him making absurd shots off the backboard of his opponents. So I think, guys, you know, before we jump to break here, thoughts, favorites from the tournament, Envious, Flipside, Leftovers, Infused, Gale Force, Method, Mocket, We Dem Girlz. Some of those we didn't even touch on. Who's your favorites to win?
I mean, Gale Force, I think, is one of the ones that I'm really stoked to watch. These are always players that I think were on rosters that did really well, and now they're like, you know what, let's form like this weird all-star team that isn't always just like the top number 1. Like we are the ones that are always right there with the number 2, number 3. We're still always on the top of the stats board. They're always in the top 5 in something, whether it be shots or goals or passes. They're my favorite to watch. We Dem Girlz are gonna be like I'm just gonna keep an eye on them because I just really want to see how
This
they
is the
start
team
to grow.
I want to be successful,
Yeah,
but it's not the team I'm counting on being successful, right? You know.
That's the professional way to go about it for sure.
So
what about you?
I think that, We Dem Girlz is going to be fun to watch. I'm really looking to see how Flipside are going to do as well. We're going to see how Mystic fits into that roster, right? I think he's going to fit in just great. We saw DreamHack. Obviously, it didn't take much thought to make that roster become concrete. I'd say beyond Flipside and We Dem Girlz, probably Gale Force, really.
Yeah.
Gale Force and Flipside, favorites here. Favorites here on the desk. I'd love to see Infused, see if Doomsy can get a little bit farther in these tournaments than he usually does.
He's crushed me too many times. I can't put my faith in him.
The lovable losers, you know? They always come so close, and we all love them so much. Doomsy, love you, baby. But that'll do it here for our Brisk Summer Series preview. When we come back, it's going to be Carpet and Matt going head-to-head. Matt's here in the studio. We'll get in a live interview for once, which is so much fun. Cannot wait to see that. We'll have that right after the break.